I just entered a country that technically doesn't exist. This living relic of the Soviet Union has its own borders, laws, and even its own currency. Join me as I explore what life is actually like inside this breakaway state.
Alright, so I arrived in Rybnitsa. The cathedral behind me is the biggest. No dog, I'm not coming for you. Is the biggest cathedral in the country of Pridnestrovie. In Moldova, this country is known by the name of
Transnistria,
which I cannot say right now because I would be committing a crime. Here, this country is called Pridnestrovie, or more precisely, the Pridnestrovskaya Moldavskaya Respublika, the Pridnestrovian Moldovan Republic. Rybnitsa is one of the most northern cities of this country. This is a huge monument. I think this is a war monument. Yeah, as I thought, this monument and these stones here are to commemorate the people who fought in the Soviet Union in World War II. You can find all these huge war memorials all over the ex-Soviet Union. I saw them in Kazakhstan, I've seen them in Russia, and also here in Pridnestrovie. And of course, next to the memorial should be a nice park. I might as well tell you what this place is and what it has to do with the Soviet Union. Rybnitsa, just as the other cities near here, was part of the Moldovan Soviet Republic. Whereas Moldova had mostly Romanian speakers and the people are culturally more Romanian, this part of the country near the border with Ukraine, which also was part of the Soviet Union back then, there were a lot of Russian speakers here and people felt more culturally Russian. Okay, so here it even says in English, the hero of the Soviet Union solemnly lit the eternal flame. Based on that, it seems like the people here are thinking fondly of the Soviet Union. And that makes sense because, like I said, this whole area of Pridnestrovie was once part of the Soviet Union with Moldova, but then Moldovans started to want to separate from the Soviet Union in the 90s, beginning of the 90s. The Russian speakers here did not want that. And the war started. That took a couple of months, quite some casualties, and the conflict has basically been frozen. Separatists made Pridnestrovie the country that it is today. As a matter of fact, it's behaving like a country in all aspects. Cars have their own registration, like their own license plate. People have their own passports. I needed to pass border control. I even got a visa, I will show you later, to enter this country. But no other country in the world recognizes it, including Moldova. There's a big Russian army presence here because the Russian army is protecting the borders of Pridnestrovie, but even Russia doesn't formally recognize this country. I did read about tourists going to Moldova, to Chisinau, taking a bus to Tiraspol, which is the capital of Pridnestrovie, but I never read about anyone entering from the north of the country, like for example here in Rybnitsa. I kind of just went on pure luck and took a bus from Soroka, where I woke up this morning, to some other random place in Moldova, and from there was indeed a bus that went to Rybnitsa. The only problem, which is kind of a big problem, is that I didn't realize that the bus to Rybnitsa doesn't actually go to Rybnitsa. By the way, here you can see the number plate. They even have their own flag that's also on the number plate. I have to find the flag somewhere. So the problem was that the bus is a Moldovan bus and they just dropped us at the border checkpoint where I had to show my passport to Pridnestrovie police. But the marshrutka, like the bus, just left me there. And that would be fine because I could just get another bus ride, but don't forget, this country is another country, so I can't use Moldovan lei to pay. The law here prescribes that you pay using the local Pridnestrovian ruble. And I didn't have that. And it's also the only place in the world where you can get that money is here, obviously. That's why I'm walking now in the middle of nowhere in Rybnitsa, trying to find a money exchange. Let's find it. Alright, now that was a success. I got my Pridnestrovie ruble. I exchanged it in the back at the Sheriff supermarket. Now, Sheriff owned the supermarket, the petrol stations, basically anything. The president of this Pridnestrovian Republic likes to call it the top taxpayer. But some other people might argue that it's basically like a mafia family who owns everything. Now, let's see if I can use my Pridnestrovian rubles to pay for a bus ticket to the bus station and to the next city. Alright, I made it to Dubossary, and you can see how enormously bustling it is here. Not a soul to be seen here. This is actually the first time I see a Pridnestrovian flag. Up there, I think that's a government building. It's the Pridnestrovian flag together with the local Dubossary. What is it? I keep forgetting the name of this place. Flag and a Russian flag. Just like Moldova has EU flags everywhere, even though they're not part of the EU. Pridnestrovie loves to put their Russian flag everywhere, even though they're not part of Russia. Makes sense. Russia probably invests here, but I know at least the army is here, so they are protecting them. Let's see what is there to do in this amazing city. I don't know. Maybe I should find a real Pridnestrovian restaurant and then continue the journey. What I forgot to mention is that whereas in Moldova everything is in Romanian, in Pridnestrovie everything is in Russian, which makes sense considering that here there's mostly Russian speakers. There are also Moldovan speakers, but the Moldovan here, or Romanian here, has to be written in Cyrillic and not in the Latin alphabet. It's actually really the same as when Moldova was in the Soviet Union, when Romanian also had to be written in Cyrillic. I haven't spotted any Romanian yet though, so if I find it, I'll show you. The only thing I'm looking for now is just some restaurants and ladas. There's lots of ladas here. There's actually a very nice park here, and there's like a little playground. And the only thing that's very evident to me is that there's no one. All the way on that side is another government building. What I also noticed is that I just saw a sign that said something like "For the Day of the Republic." I think it was some kind of celebratory sign. And what is actually quite interesting to me is that when Pridnestrovie segregated from Moldova, the Soviet Union was still a federation. It was still a thing, just for a little while. But when the Soviet Union stopped existing, they also removed all the hammer and the sickle and all the communist signs. Like for example now even the Russian emblem doesn't have a hammer and a sickle, but here they didn't change anything. So all the architecture around here is really like in the Soviet Union, but not only that, even the emblems. I feel like walking here is the most similar to what it would really feel like to be still in the Soviet Union. There's nothing that can make me happier than this. So this seems to be a music school, a Soviet music school. And it's in use even. Isn't that cool? The Soviet Union seems well alive in this place. Crazy. I still didn't eat it though. Let's go eat. Interestingly, I didn't manage to find any open restaurants. So I will just go to the bus station and go to the capital of Pridnestrovie, Tiraspol, and hopefully find food there. Oh yeah, and I can't use the internet here to look things up because I don't have a Pridnestrovian SIM card. And Moldovan internet does not work here. Anyways, I did like this. I feel like the closer you get to Tiraspol, the more Soviet it gets. I made it to Tiraspol, to my hotel room. I still haven't eaten. Well, I have eaten like a little bit of a snack that I could buy at the bus station. Now I'm here in my hotel room. Let me just show you the visa that I got and show you the money that I collected. So let's start with the visa situation. So at the border in Rybnitsa, all the way in the north, they took my passport, they scanned it, and then by default they give you a visa for 1 day. But if you want to stay longer, you have to ask. So I'm staying here for 2 nights, but I said I was staying for 3 days, just in case something happens and I stay here longer, or I want to stay here longer. If that were the case and I have a visa that expires that day, I would have to find an office to renew it, and that's probably not possible on a Sunday. And then he gave me this little note. It looks like a receipt you get at a supermarket, but this is actually the visa. And I imagine they will take this back when I leave Pridnestrovie. When I took the bus all the way to Tiraspol, there were many points where, because the country is so narrow, just one road away was Moldova or Ukraine. So you could see all the border crossings and yeah, soldiers checking and passports and cars and whatnot. So with the money, I think last time I showed you the money, I only had the 200 the 200 ruble one. Now I also got a 100 one. I like that one the most, I think. I think it's the most beautiful. The 50 one. A 25 one. This is the 10. There's also the ones. That one has just a tree on the back. What I think is cool is on all of the coins, it has on the back that emblem with like the Soviet kind of emblem. Tomorrow I really have the time to explore Tiraspol. See you tomorrow. Good morning from the capital of Pridnestrovie, Tiraspol. I'm happy to announce there's good weather today. So here behind me we have the city hall. Again, it has a very Soviet vibe. You can see the flag to it as well. Earlier I walked past what seemed like some kind of official building. I don't know what for, but what was interesting that was besides the Pridnestrovian flag, as well as the Russian flag, which is everywhere here, there were also flags from other unrecognized countries similar to Pridnestrovie, also backed by Russia, coincidentally, namely Abkhazia and South Ossetia. Those flags you will not see anywhere in the world, except for in Abkhazia and South Ossetia, obviously, and here in Pridnestrovie. Maybe one day I will visit those countries too. But first let's explore more what Tiraspol has to offer. My impression of this city, this is actually a proper city. It's big. Rybnitsa and Dubossary, it felt like small towns, to be honest. Whereas Tiraspol, it's actually quite bustling. You don't see it now, there are not many people around here, but in the very center there are a lot of people, there are shops, there's restaurants. It's actually a big city, and that makes sense because if you see this city as part of Moldova, which it practically isn't, but technically is, it's the biggest city after Chisinau. So a few 100,000 people live here, and you notice that. So to prove people are proud of their Soviet history, here there's this huge billboard which says Yuri Gagarin, which means first in space, and indeed a huge picture of Yuri Gagarin, who was the first man in space back then from the Soviet Union. So they clearly want to show off their Soviet history here, which is why I like this place, because I'm very interested in that. I guess a billboard wasn't enough, because they also put a statue here of Gagarin. I still can't get used to all the stairs. Anyways, yeah, the first man in space, Yuri Gagarin, was actually not from here. He has nothing to do with this area. The only thing he has to do with this area is that this area loves the way it was in the Soviet Union. Everywhere in the Soviet Union, Yuri Gagarin was seen as a hero. But I also think he's a hero. I mean, he was the first man in space. What can you say against that? What's this place? Ah, it's a university. The University of Pridnestrovie, again with the Pridnestrovian flag as well as the Russian flag. Yeah, so they also have a state university here, which is this beautiful Soviet building. So here we have it more clearly, actually just the flags of South Ossetia and Abkhazia. It has like their flags and the official emblems. I was thinking, why is that here? But it seems like this is some kind of embassy for those countries. Because it makes sense, because all these countries like Pridnestrovie, Abkhazia, South Ossetia, they claim to be countries, but no country will accept their diplomats for an embassy in their country, because no country accepts them, except for they themselves. They recognize each other. But if you recognize each other, you will also have to accept their diplomats to have an embassy. Now, I wonder how much work an Abkhaz ambassador has in Pridnestrovie, since it's really far from here. But anyways, so I just walked past the National Bank of Pridnestrovie. Like, that makes sense because they make their own coins. But if you want to be a proper state, you also need to have a constitutional court. It's actually a nice building. I'm now going to find my way to the river, the Dnestr, which in all the other parts that I've been in Pridnestrovie, the border between Moldova and Pridnestrovie would be the river. However, near Tiraspol here, over the river, it's still Pridnestrovie. There's another famous place there called Bender, or Bendery, and I will explore that tomorrow actually. But first, I'm gonna explore the river, and laughing. People can just chill at the river here because it's not a border zone. are just chilling in the park at the river, and the nice thing about it, it's so close to the city center. The river is back there and the city center is there. All the Western governments, including mine, are strongly advising against going here. Because if war breaks out, it's a problem, but it has been silent for more than 35 years. I mean, it does feel very safe and peaceful here, with all kinds of statues of important people. And on the main square here, I see a lot of flags, and I don't know which ones they are for most of them, but there again, prominently featured, we have the Abkhazian, Pridnestrovian and South Ossetian flag. I have to say, the main square is quite impressive. On that side, the three flag I just talked about, and on that side, a lot of flags. And I think all these flags are the provincial flags. And I saw one of them in Rybnitsa and one of them in Dubossary. And then there's obviously the big flags, the Transnistrian flag with the hammer and the sickle, and then the Russian. Now the only thing that I'm not sure about is that this huge sign here, it says 233 Tiraspol. That can't refer to how long ago Tiraspol was part of Pridnestrovie, because Pridnestrovie is only 36 or something years old. But maybe it refers to the years since the city was called Tiraspol or something. I'm not sure. If somehow someone from Pridnestrovie is watching this video, I don't know, you never know, just let me know. And it's just cool to see a live, really Soviet looking flag of an unrecognized country waving in the middle of such a square of such a city. That feels a little bit unreal. When you walk towards that emblem, it's the emblem that I've seen before in Dubossary. It says here, Pridnestrovskaya Moldavskaya Respublika, which is Pridnestrovian Moldovan Republic in Russian. But on that side, it says Pridnestrovska Moldavska Respublika, and there it says Republika Moldovensknistri. I don't know, I believe that might be Moldovan in Cyrillic. This is probably the only country on earth where you can find Romanian in Cyrillic. And prominently, the Soviet star and the Soviet hammer and sickle. So one thing that this park has, that was definitely not the case in the Soviet Union, is Wi-Fi. In theory, there's Wi-Fi here, but in practice, you get 30 minutes a day. So there is public Wi-Fi, it's 30 minutes a day, but if you want more, you have to pay. And because you can't pay by card here, only with a Russian card, which I don't have, you can't pay for the internet. I believe they sell tourist SIM cards, but I'm only here for 2 days, so I didn't look into that. But anyways, that's definitely something that the Soviet Union might also have had if it existed to this day, but it doesn't. So here you get the Soviet square, including Wi-Fi. I believe there's still part of that I haven't seen. There's still part that I haven't seen by the river, so let's check that one out. What we have here is a nice Soviet era tank with, in the background, a church. I guess peace and war, maybe? And just like we saw in Rybnitsa, here we have a World War II memorial. This war memorial, there's like a fire in there. And all those names of people who died and gravestones here. It's actually not a war memorial for the Second World War. It's a war memorial for the war in 1990 until 1992 about Pridnestrovie. War with Moldova. It's a war memorial for all the Soviet and Pridnestrovian people who died in wars. The Pridnestrovie War, but also the Afghanistan War that took 10 years. And of course the Second World War. It's an impressive place. While I try to cross this road, let's see if people will stop for me. Yeah, I'm walking to the other side of the street because what I just saw is a government building. It might be the parliament as well, because of course, if you're a country, you need to have a parliament. I already know that Lenin statues are not put away in this country. This might be the biggest Lenin monument in the country. At least the biggest Lenin monument in the country I've seen until now. I really like this architecture. Let me just stand in front of it to show you how big it is. So let me end this day at Park Pobeda, meaning Park of the Victory. I don't know what victory, But I imagine it might be the victory of the Pridnestrovian army together with the Russian army. We win this territory. While I was just filming this park, a man sitting on one of the benches was secretly making a photo of me. I spotted him and I smiled and he felt cold. He probably thought, who is this idiot making videos of this boring park? I just came across this Ferris wheel. It looks like it hasn't been used in a little while. And now I've come closer to it. For sure, it hasn't been used in years and years and years. I think it's a nice place to end the day. See you tomorrow. I will go to the last place in the Pridnestrovie Republic before returning to Moldova. Good morning from, for the last time, Tiraspol. On one side I have this quite nice church, and on the other side I have something that's also really nice, but it resembles a church. Nice final spots in Tiraspol. Now let's take the bus to Dnestr. I arrived in Dnestr. It was a bit difficult to find the correct bus because I went to the wrong station. I went to the station for international buses, which at this time was only a bus to Chisinau or Chisinau in Romanian, because that's obviously regarded as international. And here in Dnestr they have a similar monument as in Tiraspol, with a church-like monument as well as a tank. So far the only proof I've seen that this is still a zone in conflict technically is that I had to show my passport and we were checked at the border in Rybnitsa. But when taking the marshrutka or bus to Dnestr, for the first time I saw loads of Russian military, specifically Russian military. They were not Pridnestrovie military with huge guns, and yeah, then you see that there are still tensions here for sure. Now I'm walking to the fortress, which is the main tourist destination, I guess, in this country. It's a fortress built by the Ottomans in the 16th century. I can already see it in the distance. I'm almost there. Let's see. Alright, so this Dnestr fortress is by far the most touristic place here in the whole country of Pridnestrovie. Still, there are not many people, and I even have like signs in English and the tourist information center, which I don't even have in Tiraspol. I went into the tourist information office. It was mostly just a few flyers there, but the lady, she spoke English. That's good for tourists. She was very surprised to hear that I'm from the Netherlands. I think they get a lot of Russian tourists, or maybe a lot of Moldovan and Ukrainians, I don't know, but not usually from the Netherlands apparently. She asked me to say a few words. I just had to say that I was here, and then she was going to put it on the official tourism social media of Pridnestrovie. Hi, I'm in Dnestr now, and I visited Pridnestrovie for a few days. I'm from the Netherlands. I visited Rybnitsa, Dubossary, Tiraspol, and now I'm in Dnestr. It's a really nice country, especially with the weather right now, so I really enjoyed it. She said they're investing a lot in tourism right now here, which I can see. There's a church here, there's the fortress, I will go there later. You can even pay in Moldovan lei here. I was surprised because in Pridnestrovie they only accept the rubles. I asked why. She said this is an international place, or at least that's what it aspires to be. So Moldovan lei is accepted here. She did tell me that there is a kind of hidden path here behind me where you can go down to the river Dnestr. So we'll do that. People are just chilling here, partying, barbecuing. It's kind of crazy that just back there on that bridge is like 50 Russian soldiers with heavy arms. And here it's so chill. It looks very beautiful here. Can I recommend coming to Pridnestrovie? Yes, absolutely I can. I can recommend you come here. I already endorsed it on the official tourism social media, but besides that, I do recommend it. It's still your own risk. You will have an authentic experience here in a beautiful part of Europe. Anyways, let's go up to the fortress. Here next to the fortress, for all the international tourists who come here, we have another reminder not to say the word. I've been careful, I think. Alright, I entered the fortress. It's really nicely done. Ticket price is quite high for Pridnestrovie. It's not really that high, but relatively speaking, yes, because it was like €6. But then on the plus side, you can pay in any currency in Moldovan lei as well, which is very handy. To me, it really feels like I'm in another place, like another country as a whole. There's nothing Soviet here. It's just a really nice place with nice weather and an Ottoman fortress. That's very interesting to see. And there are also a few exhibitions here. There is an exhibition about torture. It's actually 2 stories, so there's one below here that I just filmed. And then there's this one as well. And it's pretty cool because it's in the fortress. Like, well, obviously it's in the fortress, but it's in one of the towers of the fortress. I guess people were tortured here. Is that why there's a torture museum? I'm not sure why there's a torture museum. But yeah, anyway, it's a torture museum and the other exhibition, it's all included in the ticket price, so it's good. Well, I think that concludes my time in Pridnestrovie. So here at the highest tower, the highest viewing point from the Bender fortress, with Bender in the background, and the river Dnestr as well as some other village of Pridnestrovie on that side. I hope you enjoyed watching my time in Pridnestrovie. There was a lot that happened that I couldn't film, but hopefully I explained it well. See you in the next video. Hope you enjoyed it. Leave a like if you did and subscribe for more travel videos.